Hey, what's going on?
Hi, how are you?
Oh my God.
What's up?
What's up? Okay, well, I'm just so excited to be yapping with you today.
On a yap yappy.
So this is Dr. Christine Russell Douglas,
Yes.
and she is a family physician, board certified. Um, sorry, it's like
No, you got it. You got
a
it. I'm
long
a I'm
name.
a I'm a board certified family medicine physician. See how
There you
you
go.
have.
Thank you. Thanks for helping me out there, Doc.
Of
Um,
course. That's why I'm here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And, you just dropped so much knowledge. That's why I feel like the knowledge you've given me and your patients and the people that you know, I feel like you can give that same knowledge to a lot more people. So thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome. Only if they're willing to accept it.
That's a great point. And Dr. Christine here, uh, she is a doctor and she's a Capricorn like myself.
Sure am. Christmas
So,
we.
right, right. And actually, we have known each other for,
Oh, don't count those years. Don't do it. Don't do
oh,
it.
yeah, it's a long time.
It's at
Okay.
least 20 years almost.
Yeah, probably, probably. So we're not gonna give an exact date, but we met because we were working in a frog lab.
With live frogs, like Princess and the Frog, like frogs. And I
Yeah.
don't know how I got there, Mello. I think I was just wandering around the campus or at San Francisco State University, and I needed money. And I was like, what lab person's gonna pay me to do anything? I was like, I don't know anything. And you're like, You know what? This one and and he pays us. I was like, cool. I'm coming to that lab. And it
Yeah.
was Dr. Vance Vredenberg, shout out.
Shout
And,
out, shout
and he
out.
had frogs and he was studying the chytrid fungus, right?
Yeah.
Would do polymerase chain reactions to amplify the DNA for this chytrid fungus on the frog skin. And so we had live frogs, we would swab them, and then we would put their DNA in this little juice to see if that fungus would grow. And that was our job. Hourly we got paid. I think he paid us how much?
I did not get paid hourly.
It was $10 hourly. I don't know. I had a stipend. They used to do money weird in university. They were like, we'll pay you this much, just go do it type of thing.
Yeah, no, I was not getting paid hourly because I was in that program where I mean they paid for the tuition.
Oh well, hey, I paid for that tuition,
Good,
okay.
which is good. I'm
Hey,
not
I
complaining.
can't not paying for tuition. So
Yeah, no, tuition was good. Yeah, shout out NIH. Passive mark. Yes.
that girl national, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even though that was a long time ago, the stuff that we were learning back then, like, do you feel like it still applies to your current practice, or I guess in general as a physician?
Absolutely, because with the frogs, I learned a lot about species and genealogy. And at that time, Dr. Vredenberg was studying how frogs are an indicator species of the environment because their skin is so sensitive. They can breathe through water, they can also breathe through air. And any change whatsoever will affect them, and they're the indicator species, meaning like the thermometer. If this level goes up, then everything else in the environment will change. And so if it changes with frogs, that's where you see it first. So if the frogs are dying, the rest will follow, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, totally makes sense to me. And I think you mentioned this before, like frogs they can survive on land and on water. So
Mm-hmm.
they're versatile in that way. So any changes really is like not just for
Yeah,
water.
it'll be the first signs that our environment is kaput. In a nice gentle word to say it, like that the environment is just not working.
Yeah. And I
It's not
really
working.
yeah, no, for sure. Like I love working there because of that implication basically of like this wildlife animal health with human health. Uh,
Yeah.
and which is now your what you're currently focusing on.
Yeah.
And so you've been a physician for I don't know how many years now.
Been about 10 years.
Oh wow, okay.
We've
And
already added up to 10 years, I think. I've been a physician for about 10 years. Yeah.
okay, yeah, and like as a physician, like um, because you're doing like a family physician, so I bet the kinds of cases that you, not cases, sorry, clients that you see, they probably have present all kinds of medical issues. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because like we do with genealogy, it's my job to place a label on something before we can identify a treatment plan because that's how we look at research.
Hmm. Okay. Can you tell us more about this labeling process, if you will?
Yeah, so the labeling process, I'll pick something generic. I feel like diabetes is something a lot of us can relate to. For diabetes, for instance, if you there's just a certain criteria before I can say you have diabetes.
Yeah.
And then there are different types of diabetes and they're all treated differently. And so I would have to, one, identify that you have this illness or this ailment, deficiency, or disease. And then two, identify a treatment plan or process so that we can either treat or cure something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
totally.
so, in order to do that, you have to go to school a really long time and have a breadth of knowledge about patients and whatnot. And then understand that maybe your treatment is one size fits all, meaning you pick one treatment plan and it'll work for people, or it just doesn't work for people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what's interesting about my job. I spend a lot of time categorizing things and
Mm.
then looking at research related.
Yeah. So it sounds like a super comprehensive process that you have to do, right? Because especially disease can be complex because especially like you're dealing with different bodies of people who respond to medicine,
Yeah,
environmental factors in their own unique way, and so really trying to there's
tailor. You have to
literature,
tailor. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so I guess right now, or maybe it's been around too, but there are folks out there who um, maybe they're scared of going to the doctor.
As
How do you deal with those kind of patients? I mean, for them to even get to your door, right? Like that is like one step, but like once they get in your door, I'm sure there's still some kind of resistance to like medical advice. Like how do you communicate with those kind of patients?
the thing is, it's all a labeling process because a lot of times they're not patients. As a family medicine physician, you have to realize that sometimes a patient is not a patient. This is a mother.
Mm,
This is a daughter. This is someone's grandpa. How do you tell grandpa something's wrong with him? And how do you get grandpa to care that something's wrong with him because it relates to other people? And then how do you convince grandpa to come to the doctor? A lot of times you have to convince his wife first. A lot of times they never receive what they should receive because they don't want it or they don't hear it the way that you want it to.
mm.
My favorite example is I'll be in the clinic and like I speak a few languages, right? And
Oh
so
wow. What do you speak? Sorry.
it depends on the time.
Oh. I'm sorry.
And no, it's okay. I don't want to sidetrack you because saying that I could speak something, but saying that I'm not communicating well or saying that people aren't listening to me, like it's all a process no matter what language is in, even if it's nonverbal communication. So it's just like, well, what am I supposed to do about that? You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
how the real basis of the question is how do you get your point across?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. in a way that the person would even consider what you're telling
Yeah.
them.
So I can tell you in Spanish, but if you don't want to hear it, guess what? I I'm there. I there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my favorite patients are the ones who say, I don't think I like her Spanish very well. But in reality, it might be, I don't like what she's saying at all.
Mm,
To me, that's a difference.
yeah. Yeah, no, actually that's I didn't think about that. I thought because a lot of times I feel like with communication people think, "Oh, you just it's a language barrier. It's so easy
No,
to blame
it's
it
an
on."
understanding barrier.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, yeah, I can be in a clinic speaking to Spanish speaking patients in Spanish, but if they don't want to understand what I'm saying, guess what? They won't do.
Yeah.
Not treatment options. That work. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you could be speaking English to someone who speaks English and it's the same
So
thing. Yeah.
literacy does not entail comprehension. I'll say that.
Oh. Oh. I like that. Look
I'm
at you
not gonna
dropping.
lie. It might have to be a t-shirt. It might be some merch. No, just
That's
because you
hilarious.
can read doesn't mean you understand and comprehend. And I think that's the barrier in people. Well, I told you what I said, but did I understand you? From
Mm,
my perspective, and you have to meet people where they are. A lot of times you're looking in the mirror fighting yourself,
mm,
and you don't understand what you've conflicted yourself with because you don't understand that person's background, culture, gender. You put a label on it. If you just don't see it, you just won't see it.
wow. That's deep. Um,
Then the deep blue sea.
yeah. Yeah, I mean what I'm hearing you say is really trying to make that connection.
Yeah, you have to figure out where the connection's missed if it is. You have
Yeah.
to you have to understand that yourself. And
Uh,
so that's where things get complicated because it's just like, well, I don't know what you don't know. You can look at me and assume you think you know, or assume you think I know. But in reality, how do we know? How do we know?
yeah. And you're talking about language. I'm gonna jump to another topic here. You mentioned you know a couple languages. Uh,
Don't put me on the spot. Don't you dare. You know why? Because my brain has so much in it. I have to be in context.
mm,
I'm like that fish you put in the water and survive, you know? Like if pressed, I wouldn't remember your name. And what's your name again? Like I've known you for almost 20 years, you
yeah,
know? But so, hola, ¿cómo se siente? Bien?
yeah,
Or
yeah. When you're
uh,
yeah, when you're put in that situation, it's like
yeah,
sounds like something clicks in you and
it
you
clicks, yeah.
adapt.
It
That
clicks
sounds
and
like
then
an adaptation.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm a contextualized speaker for I want to say Spanish, French. My cleaning lady is Russian, so I've been doing some words and verbs with him. My brother speaks fluent Japanese. Japanese I cannot touch. I'm sorry. All I know is sushi. Delicious. Yep. Yagahama maka. Give me that roll. Maki. Give me a maki roll. Yep. Give me the sushi. The hey, I try. I try to understand other people. Vietnamese is a new one. I have a Vietnamese keyboard on my phone because my nail tech is Vietnamese. Sometimes, Miss Wynn might need to be spoken to in Vietnamese, or we our communication is breached. And we have a lot of tools now. The world is in our hands. We have a lot of tools now to help us speak other people's languages. Now, to understand them, you have to really have empathy, I think.
Mm,
And empathy is not something that comes across a dime a dozen. A lot of people are talking to themselves and they think they're talking to other people.
Wow. Wow. Can you tell me more like what that means?
Um, it depends on your intention. It depends on your intention. Like if my intention in our conversation is to get people to learn other languages, then I might speak to you in a certain way and I might address the topic in a certain way because that's my intention. I
Mm,
intend to get this done. So I'm going to say anything and everything to get you to do something. But sometimes I have to know about you first.
right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like this spirit you're talking about is similar to what you were talking about when you try to connect with the patients,
Mhm.
right? And it's really about understanding them with this empathy. Like you actually have to be interested in knowing about them. That's
A, a,
how you
a
form the connection.
Yeah. No, a great example, not even to pick on patient, is I had a patient who was semi-deaf, but she could speak. And she loved to talk, loved it. One-sided conversation, just her talking. Could I talk to her? She wouldn't allow it.
Mm,
She would talk through me because there was nothing going to pause that. So that being said, like how do I tell her what I need to tell her if what her intention for me to do was just sit there and listen to her.
mm. It sounds
And,
like, yeah,
and maybe talk
sometimes,
through it.
yeah. I mean, you mentioned before the motivation, right? And it sounds like sometimes maybe people just need someone to listen to them, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of times people need to feel heard. They may not be listened to, but they need to feel heard. It's
yeah.
like, why do some people have pets? Mellow.
They're so cute.
But sometimes people talk to them, right?
Oh, I talk to them all the time.
But do they talk back? Like
No,
Foxy talks back to you?
no.
Exactly. So like, what y'all talking about really? You talk to yourself.
Like out loud, right?
I mean, however you phrase it, it's just like, well, it depends on the intention and whether that's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'm gonna like dive to another topic here. Because I know you have a lot. You mentioned languages, right? You are just a you're a multi hyphenate, and that's really our target guess. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
using the right word about target, but but I mean, you
Target today, it's bad in there.
it exemplifies you exemplify like a multi hyphenate because you have a lot of hobbies and interests. You already mentioned languages.
I'm curious. I would say that I'm a curious cat. I like to learn.
Yeah, and I know you were telling me recently about you like Greek mythology. Uh for like for example that one like does that uh I guess what's the word spill over into like your professional being? Because I think when I was talking to you, we were talking about like Cyclops and like
Yeah, so I was watching this documentary. And I know that in ancient Greek mythology, you have mythological creatures, and sometimes myth just means that it's a verbal story or just a ancient story from a time way, way, way back when, right? And so the idea of the creature, the Cyclops, the creature with both eyes just in the center, just one eye here, not two eyes, just one here. They were saying in a documentary that it maybe came about as like a tetra or some tetragen or some kind of teratogen where a mother when she had a baby in utero, that means she was pregnant for the lay people. A pregnant lady ate an herb from a medicine man, and the birth defect be, became that eye, just the one eye in the center. And so it's like, wow, it's like a association type thing, but it's a causal thing. If you take this medicine, this will cause this, and that's what they had. And so back when they used to use this medication for whatever reason, and it caused these creatures with one eye, they then became mythological creatures. And so are they real? Are they fake? You know, where does that come from? And it's documented that I wish I knew the name of it. Then I would go and look it up. But that's another thing that's dangerous about our society is if everything is online, you can go back and change that whenever you want to or delete it. Like some of our government websites are being used to help treat women and, you know, transgenders and anything that our administration is against or for, you just delete it out of the network like it never existed. Or you just won't be able to find it. It's just not a query search. It's just hard to find.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. When you're talking about this website, and it makes me think about access, right? Like cutting
Access to
off,
information.
yeah,
You can
cutting off the access.
block, you can block or cut anyone off, and the problem will be you lose a breath of understanding from that day and time.
Yeah, nah, for sure. Actually, that made me think about, speaking of access and not being able to navigate information and knowledge. I feel like you also have navigated so many different spaces, right, to get to where you are, and you being able to access those spaces is now what we're seeing is the breadth of knowledge that you are spilling here on the show today.
Yeah,
Um,
spill the tea.
so yeah, I mean, this will be in the intro post, but in maybe I should have done this in the beginning, but like, um, can you tell us some of your training? Because you don't sound like a regular doctor to me. You sound like you know the science, but then you know so much of also like the social aspects.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if you could share with us like the different training and spaces that you've navigated that we're
Okay.
now seeing.
I'll give you somewhat of a timeline of what I had to do to get called what I am, and that's a physician. And so I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, Watts, um, and it was a pipeline that I went against the grain. I'll say that much. I went against the grain. A lot of people around me got pregnant earlier in their lives, or they went to prison a lot, and went to jail a lot, or they drank alcohol to calm their nerves, or crack. You know, crack was a big thing. We had our neighborhood crackhead was kind of like a chicken, you know. She yelled down the street at a certain time every day. You know, you're like, what is Diane doing today? You know, it's just what she's on that stuff again. And those are the things that we learned growing up. Or for me, in my neighborhood, my neighbors were Mexican. They were from Guadalajara, Jalisco, and so they would invite me over to their house. It was a neighboring thing. All the neighbors watch each other's kids. Tienes hambre, mija. You know, like those are like my first words in Spanish. That means, are you hungry? My child. Like they refer to me as their child. And so
Wow.
that's a an environment that I grew up in. But I took the school bus an hour and a half to West LA and an hour and a half back in order to get education. And to me, that was blasphemy. I was like, why do I have to go so far to learn? I hate being on the bus. I used to throw up. I got motion sickness. It wasn't my jam. But I did like to look out the window. And when you look out the window of the school bus, you notice things change with time. Like this neighborhood looks like that. This neighborhood looks like that. This neighborhood looks like that. And you notice the distribution of wealth. And so I was the first in my family to move away and go to college. I got my first degree at UC Davis in psychology. And then after that, I was just kind of like, I want to be a doctor. How do you do that? And just start knocking off boxes. You know, what class do you have to take? What test do you have to take? Even with you, I did UCSF, UCSF, University of California, San Francisco, post back, and San Francisco State. to try and boost my grades or do what I needed to do to check my boxes so that I can get in the med school. And I ended up at UCLA Prime program in medical education, cohort three. And it's a dual degree program with a master's degree in business and an MD degree. And so I finished that. And so that being said, we're not done yet. I had to go to residency, and residency was trial and tribulation. And I think in the literature they call it grit. How good at you at overcoming circumstances to get things done. And I'm just really good at that. You give me your hardest thing, I'm gonna cry. Oh, yep, like a big baby. I'll cry, but I'll eventually figure it out. And I'll eventually figure out my resources, and I'll eventually figure it out. And so, how did I become what I am today? I think it's just day by day. You end up doing or not doing this, and you end up in a certain position. And so you just put yourself on a trajectory and just keep chugging along like a Clydesdale, just just stretch yourself, And so I can't say that was easy. When I was in residency, my biggest fear was somebody would come in that I knew, because
Mm,
if it would hit home for me.
mm.
It would hit home for me. My hardest day of residency was when my mom called me when I was on night shift and she told me my uncle had been shot and he died.
So sorry.
My next steps then were to take care of my patients. I couldn't leave them. I couldn't leave them and be like, no, I need this time for me. So a lot of times it feels like I'm just giving parts of myself away. And so that's when you get back to the hobbies. What do you do to replenish yourself? And so, you have to be creative. You have to be creative. Sometimes it's humor. Sometimes it gets to be dark humor, and either people get it or they don't get it. But at least you got to the next day. And so life is a day by day process. That's what I think.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I mean,
See.
I feel like I knew your journey, and we have definitely have some overlaps of getting bused to high school because I did something similar. Um, and I'm familiar with
Oh,
WASP. That's where my high school was.
yeah. But
Kicked
it was a way to integrate the system, so we can get a little bit of mixture, a little swirling and distribution in the pot where people can learn from each other so that you're not just around one type of person.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
you mentioned
Do
hobby.
you want to see the baby on cam? Can I bring him up here? You hear him crying?
I actually don't hear the baby crying.
You don't? Okay, then
Yeah.
you know what? I'm just hearing things. Forget it then. Must be a what do they call it? A phantom cry. I was
No,
like,
but
that sounds
sometimes the Zoom doesn't. It kind of filters out. There's a setting for that where you
oh
kind
no,
of cut out
that's
the
good.
environment sounds. But yeah, I mean, you're a physician, obviously very busy, and you have babies. Like,
Three, three babies.
wow. Yeah, and one is like under a year old. One is
Yeah,
like,
8 months.
yeah. So I mean, what hobbies can you really do?
A lot of my hobbies are avoiding folding clothes and napping when I can. But I like to bake sometimes. Like when I can coordinate it, I can bake a little bit. I know your wife bakes too, so I got a book about breads. So if I can coordinate my brain enough, I'm gonna go get some yeast and try and figure out how to make breads.
Okay, okay.
Um, Let me see what else kind of hobby. The latest thing I was working on just some poetry and trying to record with a friend.
Oh, that's cool.
I love painting. I just don't have time to do it.
I didn't know you painted.
Yeah, I have a couple things on my Instagram page that are actually things that I painted. And
I know
so
you dance. Like, I remember you taking like ballet and
yeah,
other.
yeah, yeah. So I have a dance class tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday.
What's your class?
Actually, I don't know until I get there. So
Oh,
we
interesting.
will see. We're gonna see. And so,
That's the
so
plan.
things that move my body, like I think going for a walk is a good cleansing thing that kind of gets things off my brain. Those are things that I like.
Wow.
Those are
Well,
things.
thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing about, your professional experience, your personal experience, your
It's
hobbies.
always nice to connect with you.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy your friendship, and you're one of the most brilliant people I know. And you
You,
keep it real. So,
you. I try to be as authentic. I think it's a lot of places you feel like you have to change your skin like a chameleon. I think I'm becoming more and more like that thing that I actually am and not a chameleon.
mm, yeah. Well, especially like going to all the different. Oh my gosh! Hi.
So this is our
Oh.
little debut. He's had enough of you with me.
Okay. Okay. Well, you're so cute.
Say thank you. That's
Hi. Well, if I do like this, it's like hi, hi.
whisper.
Oh, you look like you just took a nap and you want to take more. Okay, I'm gonna let you go. So
Hey,
you,
well, I was happy. I look forward to seeing the recording.
yeah,
And
thank you so
thank
much.
you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank you for having
sharing
me.
your precious time with us.
No,
Because
I'm happy to share. As long as you know what my goal is to amplify whatever knowledge base we can so that we can inflict the biggest, grandest change for the better, for the
yeah,
better.
yeah, thank you.
Because we got this little world to give to these little things. Then what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do for them?
Yeah.
Gonna have plastic bags in the ocean. What else? Everything's polluted. Tell her. Tell her what? He can't talk for himself. That's why what are we supposed to do for them? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yep. For sure. Thank you so much. And
So
thank you for making an appearance. I love your shirt.
thank you. Did you say thank you?
Oh dear. Okay. Well, have a good one and enjoy your day.
All right, you too.
Okay, thanks.
Goodbye.